Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. Thank you for joining this morning. Just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. Everyone has been muted upon entry. If you have any questions, though, throughout this presentation, please add them to the Q&A section in the Teams webinar. We will be monitoring that area, and at the end of the presentation, we will be addressing any additional questions that come up while we walk through this presentation. Thanks again for joining. I'm Colleen Shills. I am the Director of Customer Success here at Crestwood. I have a team of 6 individuals that work with our clients on a day-to-day basis and cover all the different products that we work with here at Crestwood. And joining me today for the webinar is our Microsoft Dynamics Services Director, Dan Milani. And thanks, Dan, for joining. Looking forward to this event. Today, Dan's going to take us through job costing for manufacturing in Business Central. Again, just a friendly reminder that if you have any questions throughout this session, please put them in the Q&A and we will be monitoring those. So before I turn it over to Dan, I hear you're going to show us how Relic Cloud, a customer of Kronos, is going to order some custom furniture, which I'm actually kind of excited about, only because I'm looking forward to getting my furniture out this spring. So for the outside, but just you're going to show us how we can use jobs or what is now projects in Business Central to manage this. Did I get this right?
That's correct. Thank you, Colleen. So I'm going to go ahead and take over sharing and share my Business Central here. And the first thing I want to talk about is why we would use a project or what was formerly called jobs instead of production. Production is great for repeatability. If you have an item that has a specific BOM or routing that doesn't change frequently. Now you can change BOMs and routings, but it's something that you really you want to lock down as much as possible. Projects are better suited for custom work, longer cycles, in some cases for make-to-order items where a traditional BOM or routing just may not meet the need. So first thing I'm going to do here is I'm at my base screen in Business Central. I'm going to go up here, click on my magnifying glass, and type in projects. And go ahead and click on my projects. And I'm going to find the Tray Research Patio Furniture Project and go ahead and go into that. Now, I've already set up this project and run a bunch of transactions through. We have a short amount of time today, so I wanted to get a lot of the pre-work done first. So let's start by just going through the project screen really quickly. We have our project number, a brief description of the project, a customer number. If there was a PO, we could put it in this external document number. Who's the person responsible for this project? If we want to block a project, we can. And then ultimately, who's the project manager? And for this one, it's going to be me. I'm going to go ahead and click on the show more just real quick here. And there's just some additional customer information here that we can reach at any time. So I'm going to click on show less. And we're just going to go through a couple of really quick things here as well. You'll see up here, we have the attachment screen. And for this particular project, it's an overall design of what we want the patio to look like. And then individual drawings for each of the components. Now, I'm not going to click on those because I'll be honest with you, they're dummy documents. There's nothing in them. I just wanted to show that we had the ability to attach these drawings. And then now I'm going to go a little bit more into what makes up the project. Now, with traditional production, you would have a bill of materials, you would have routings. With projects, it's more date driven. So we have, in this case, this is a project that we've done for a fixed fee for Tray Research. And we have a number of phases. We have a design phase, and then we have a phase for fabrication, which is when we actually build the design. And then we have a delivery and setup phase. And you can see here that we've also got payments for each of these phases. So we've got a 40% payment for when phase one completes, and then two 30% payments as each additional phase completes. All right, so I'm going to go into one of the lines here, and I'm going to pick this design line here. And we're going to go ahead, and you can see all of these. We have start dates and end dates. That's, again, just for planning out your resources, when each task is expected to be completed. And then we have our budgeted cost. And in Business Central, anytime you see these teal lines and that highlight, you can click on those to find out the information behind them. So we're going to go ahead and click on our budget line here and see what makes that up. So we have our budget line here, and this is for our resource, Marty Horst, and he's a designer. We're expecting to use 8 hours of his time, and our cost is expected at $75.90 an hour. And then we have a total cost anticipated of $607.20. Now, you'll see we also have a price here of $139 an hour and a line amount of just over $1,100. And the only reason I'm calling that out is because if I go back, you'll see the design phase has no price. And that is one of the advantages of using a project. We can capture our costs, but not necessarily bill for them. So I'm going to move on to our actual cost on this. And we see here that instead of $607.20, it's $588.23. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this. And you can see that right here is why. Marty didn't take the full hours to do the design. So our cost was actually only for 7.75 hours, or the $588.23. So now we can see that we have this line at the end of completion for the $2,400, and that is our billable price. And we can see, because it's populated here, we have already invoiced that. And just for good measure, I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And we can see it's not Marty, but we've created an additional resource just for the billing line. And the reason the quantity is 0.4 is simply because in Business Central, you can do math on fields. And we have our total unit price of $6,000. Because we're only billing 40%, we put that in at a quantity of 0.4, amounting to the $2,400. All right. Now, I do want to show you the different line types that you can do. It's hard in the design because there was only one line, but we're going to go to our materials line so that we can see we have multiple lines here. These are all the raw materials, or what would be your bill of materials. So I was just talking about line types, and you can see these are all labeled at budget. And again, that's because this is a fixed fee project. We actually have 3 types of lines that are possible. There's our budget lines, and these are just the lines that represent what we estimate our costs or revenues for the project are for those lines. They're really just used for planning and forecasting purposes. Now, we also have the type of billable lines, and I'm going to close out of here just real quick to go back to our billing line here. And if we look at this line, we can see it's a type of billable. And these are the lines that will be actually invoiced to the customer as we go through the project. They're used to track what upcoming billing we have, as well as what's already been invoiced. Now, you can also, and in this project, I don't have any of these, you could have lines that are type budget and billable. And these just combine the two features. They're used for budget, but they're also used for billing. So you have a comparison of what that is. All right, so I'm going to go back to our materials line, and you can see that here are the materials we needed. These are the estimated costs for them, and everything all checks out as far as our budget. Now, if I go over, we can see again, the budget and actuals are different. These lines represent, okay, we've now placed our purchase orders. We found we needed a slightly different quantity. Our costs were slightly different. So these are our actual numbers, what we actually paid. All right, I'm going to move on to our budget lines for assembly here. And these would be in traditional manufacturing, these would be our routing steps. So we have a resource for our CNC machine, a resource for our fabric cutting and sewing, and a resource for our assembly teams. And we are expecting quantities of 2 hours, 4 hours, and 3 hours at these unit costs. And those will make up our total cost that's budgeted. And again, as we go through the assembly process, we actually see we had a lower cost, and we can see that we actually had lower time on some was a little above, but that will give us our actual cost as we roll through. One thing to note here, you can see that these are set as resources. So I'm going to go ahead and click on our sew and cut resource and drill in there. And just so you can see where that cost comes from. So we have a line for our direct unit cost, and that could be the employee. And then we have an indirect cost, and that's a percentage based on the employee. And that could be things like wear and tear on the machine, or we know that it's roughly 25% of the employee cost, and that accounts for the thread or any needle replacements or anything like that. And that gives us a rolled cost of 43.75. All right. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm just reviewing my notes real quick. Okay, so jobs and projects can be done in a number of ways. Like I said, we are doing this job based on milestone billing. Now, you can also do your billing. There's a feature, if I go to actions and functions, we can create project sales invoices. And what that will do is, again, I've posted everything here because we have a limited amount of time. But if I didn't, what I could do in here is I could go and enter a posting date. And that's going to look at the date on the lines and say, okay, if I'm saying my date is 2/28, what are all my lines that come before that have not yet been invoiced? And it will invoice those dates. And you can assign that to a date. We can create our invoices per project or project task. And we can also run it for just a specific project, or we could create a filter in here. If let's say you have 10 projects open, you can actually run it for all 10 projects. You could run it for specific tasks. So I'm going to cancel this here because there's
Hey, Dan,
nothing.
real quick.
Sure.
When you go to run your billing,
Yep.
Before it actually posts to the system, do you have an opportunity to preview your invoice ahead of time? Just wondering.
That's a great question. Honestly, typically people don't do that, but Colleen, I'll review that and I can attach that to the meeting afterwards.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan.
I don't believe so, but I don't want to say for sure.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Yep. All right. Now, what I will say is that when you create those invoices, what it does is it's going to create the invoice. How do I say this without it getting confusing? I'm really sorry, Colleen, you threw me a little bit there.
Sorry.
No. It's a great question. But when you create that invoice, it's it's kind of like a sales order at that point, because then you have to go in and post the invoice. So long way around to answer your question is yes, because it would create an invoice, but it's not a posted invoice yet.
Okay,
So at that
perfect.
point, you could delete it.
Okay, perfect.
All
Thanks.
right, no problem. All right. So that is basically how you would set up a project. And real quick before I jump into some more of the details and things like that, I want to talk about this column right here. You'll see that a project screen, if you're familiar with your chart of accounts, there are some similarities. And as we're doing these lines, we have similar types. So we have types of beginning totals, we have posting, we have headings, we have end totals and totals. So that allows you to really structure your project in a way that's easy to see. We can see that I have a begin total on line 1000, and then I have an end total on line 9999. And these numbers are completely up to you as you're setting up your projects. This is just a format that I've found gives me plenty of room to add lines as needed, just by bumping these up by 1,000 every time. So as you can see, I've got a begin total here, and then on phase one design, I've got another begin total right beneath it. And then for my design, I've got posting lines, and that's going to be for the time that Marty put in. And then I've got a payment line that's also posting, which is going to be for that customer payment. And then I have an end total here for my phase one, and that's just going to total each of those up all the way across. And then I'll do the same for my phase two, and we'll get the same thing there. In the phase two end, we'll get all our totals. And then we've got the same for phase three. And then this 999 line in combination with this 1000 line is just going to do the same thing for all of the columns. So we'll see our total budget was 3911.25. Our total actual cost was 3867.65. Our billable price was 6,000, and we have invoiced that full 6,000. All right. So now we're going to move on to our details tab, which is this fact box over here. And it also will keep running totals based on your beginning and end totals. And what you can do is at a quick glance, we can get all of our information for this project. We know what our budget was, our actual, our billable, and our invoice. So it just gives you a nice, quick, handy way to really look in and see, okay, where does this project sit as of today? Real quick, I'm going to go into some common tasks, and take a look at our home tab. And you can see that we've got this copy tasks from and our copy tasks to. And what that allows you to do is, let's say you do have some repeatability on your project. You can open a new project and use this copy project tasks from. And what that'll allow you to do is look and say, okay, you know what? This was actually very similar to our reception area remodel. We're going to modify it a little bit, but that gives me a great starting point. So you could copy the tasks from there. I'm not going to do that because I actually already have my tasks all created and everything. But what it also allows you to do is, okay, it's not the same project, but a lot of the tasks are. So you can copy specific task numbers. And we can include our planning line type or leave it. We could say, I want the tasks, but on this project, this is just going to be a budget line, or this is just going to be a billable line. And we can also do it by date range. And similar, they just allow you to do it the opposite direction. If you were on this project and wanted to copy to a different project, you can use this button here. And then we also are able to create inventory or warehouse picks from here. And then we also, I want to just run through our prices and discounts. We can set up job specific pricing. So you may have customers, and if you've been using BC, you know you can set up customer specific pricing for items. Well, you in the case of a project, we may want to give either more favorable pricing or less favorable pricing to a customer because of the size of a job. So we have the ability to do pricing on resources, items, or GL accounts right from the project itself. And then I'm going to go to my actions tab and my functions. And we also have nice, easy ways to create our purchase orders for any inventory necessary or outside resources. And we can create our project sales invoices as well very easily. We talked about that a little while ago. So as you can see, the jobs are really a way to manage a lot of different things in one area. Production, it's a little more rigid. It's great for repeatable things. Jobs are great for things like this, a custom job for a specific customer. I've seen people, and I keep saying jobs, and I'm really sorry. It's now projects. I've been in the nav space for a long time. It's just going to take me a little time to get used to that. So the projects are very good for things like an R&D item. It's something that you want to build for mass production, but we're still in the R&D phase. We want to capture all the costs so we know how to price it down the line, or like I said, custom job type things, or make to order where you don't have really rigid and specific guidelines for things. So the job screen is great. I'm going to go really quick to project. I wanted to go to our statistics. Let's see if F9 still works. No, that's going to post my web. Statistics. They keep hiding it on me. So we also have this screen here, which is going to show us our overall information. It's similar to here, but it's really a one-stop shop. You can see budgets to actuals, what your profitability is, and information such as that. But now the question becomes, what if I'm not in BC every day? What if I want to see overall information? Microsoft has released a projects app for Power BI. So I'm just going to jump over real quick. And I know we're running short on time, and I want to give time for any questions that may be out there. But I do want to show this app real quick. This is fully, it's just a download plugin for Power BI that allows you to look at your projects. So right now I'm looking at my project overview, and I have this filtered for me as the project manager. And it's going to show me my completion, how much I've invoiced, my realization percentage, and my profit and profit margin. It's just a really good view of my overall projects and how things are looking. I also have one for my project tasks, and that's going to show me similar information as if I were going in project by project. And in this case, I do have it filtered to a single project number, but real quick, let me just do this. And we can see all of our projects overall. Right? And then we can also look at our project profitability. And again, I have this set to the current project that we were just looking at, but it's a great screen that, if I wanted to see, or my boss wanted to see, or your business manager wants to see, it's a great project executive dashboard that you can just go in and take a look at. And again, I'm going to go in and select all so that you can see these, and it's going to take a second to refresh here, and our margin actually drops. And that's just because I can't manage every project. So some people aren't going to do as well. But it's a great overall view. I'm going to take look at this project realization here. You can see this is 0%, and you can see why. Because we didn't on this project have billable lines that had costs. They were all on a separate line because we were doing milestone billing. This report isn't as useful. So let me go ahead and select all. And now you can see where we have those lines that do, we have actual realization. And then I'm sorry for going through these so quickly. Like I said, I just want to make sure we have time for any questions, but we've got a project performance to budget, and we're doing really well on that. And then we have invoiced projects as well. And we are 100% invoiced on this. And then invoiced by customer. So you can see that even if you're not in Business Central, as long as you have access to the data, you can still get at this information without digging super far, simply by downloading the Power BI apps that Microsoft has made available. With that, Colleen, I'm at the end of my demo. I just threw a lot of information at people very quickly, but do we have any questions?
We do, Dan. This was great. It was really exciting to see the when you went into the Power BI side of things, especially with, where technology's going and, Crestwood being a cloud services provider and the resources we have on staff that can really help our clients take them to that next level, right? But the question that we had was from Emily, and she was asking if you can include or add in bills paid towards a project by linking them to the project. So when bills come in through AP, can they connect it so that it's, showing the committed costs
Yep.
at the
Yep.
project level?
That's a great question. And Emily, let me do this. How do I want to do this? Let's go to our materials and we'll take a look at our actual cost. And is it going to let me show? Let's find our entries. Okay, so you can see I'm going to open this posted purchase invoice, and you'll see on the purchase line, see, where do I have it here? Okay, see this project number field right here? As you're entering a PO, you can either create the purchase order from the job, but what most people tend to do is just enter a purchase order and put the project number. And then there's also a project task line that I don't have displayed here, but you can assign a PO to a specific project and right down to the task line level. So if you're buying an item, or let's say you had a PO come into a GL line or something like that, you can tie them direct to a project and a task.
That's great. Thanks for answering that, Dan. So
Yep.
I think no more questions. And so I think we're just going to wrap it up then. So I'm going to take back over here.
Okay.
Resume from my slide. So we did the live presentation. Thank you very much. That was great information. We did our Q&A. And so now just to recap here, we showed about managing jobs or projects in Business Central. I think we're all having a conversion with the labels, right? And then we looked at the job project profitability reporting that's available, even in Power BI, which was really great. And if anybody on this call, is really wanting more information, wanting to know more, see more, engage with our consulting team, reach out to your customer success manager. They can help direct you and get you to where you need to be within the Crestwood community. And again, we appreciate everybody for attending today's webinar. And thank you, Dan, for the presentation and the helpful knowledge. And I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their day.
Thank you very much.